What is up, guys, and welcome to MTG Devotion. My name is Mike Knowles. Thank you for joining us. So this is a little more of an impromptu video. I didn't expect to be uploading on the channel so soon. Just got everything together, and still some things aren't ready. We're not really set up for shooting how I want to do it, but impromptu anyway. Because what happened? So today I played in a modern event, ended up getting top 4 of it with Merfolk, and it really made me think. Like when I was going to the event beforehand, I decided I was going to play this deck, and especially once I got into playing it after, how not underrated, because I think it's fairly rated as a tier 2 to 1.5 deck. When it comes to like the implications of the meta, obviously a lot of lists have it at a tier 3 when it comes to the actual power level, but I think you have to take consideration how it pairs up. Which we're talking about today, and a lot of the cards being well positioned, and why I think it's a very big sleeper deck actually right now for a lot of modern events. But also about the decision making when it comes to modern. Our first video is actually going to be about the state of standard. But I really just wanted to talk about this. So we're going to go to the deck profile and kind of discuss card choices and some of my viewpoints on why I think this deck is really rated and where I'm thinking about now when it comes to changes for the deck, and hoping to get some suggestions for you guys. So hope you guys enjoy this video. Let's go right to the deck profile and then get into the good meat and potatoes. Alrighty, guys, so we're going to hop right into this, starting with our creature lineup. So obviously, you can't have a good old Merfolk deck without 4 copies of Lord of the Atlantis. So pretty decent. I'm going to actually just put out all the lords first, then we'll go ahead and get into them. So Master of the Pearl Trident is your second lord set. And your third lord set, which you actually run 3 of, normally, I think 3 is definitely the right number, is Merfolk. So all of these guys are going to give your team +1/+1, as long as they're Merfolk, which, you know, Merfolk tribal deck, so kind of what you're trying to do here. I think it's going to work out at least 99.9% of the time. And each of them have like different additional conditions. So Lord of Atlantis, because it's such an old card, it actually gives all Merfolk on the board +1/+1, in addition to Island Walk. Island Walk being one of the keywords in this deck, lets you get through if your opponent has an island. Your guys with an Island Walk can't be blocked. Now notably, it says all, so your opponent's Merfolk will also get it, which isn't super likely you're going to see a mirror, but it is pretty likely to see a Mutavault, and because Mutavaults are all types, it will give your opponents opposing Mutavault +1/+1 and Island Walk. So very important to remember that when you're going into combat with a Mutavault. A lot of opponents might not even know that, so you might be able to skip by at times, but you should definitely know that. Master of the Pearl Trident is the updated, better version of Atlantis, because it only gives your Merfolk +1/+1 and Island Walk. Same body of a 2/2 and double blue for the mana cost, so just the straight upgrade. And none of these guys are legendary, which is also the other upside, so you can stack the same Lord of Atlantis, you can stack the same Master of Pearl Trident, or your Merfolk. So this one's the only one that's different, and it's really unique. I think the effect is very powerful, which is why it's a 3-drop. Unfortunately, because it's a 3-drop though, and the deck really runs on the number 2, it's all about them 2 drops, 2 drops, 2 drops. That was really bad. It gets cut for the 4th one. So Regery is a 2/2 for 3, and whenever you cast a Merfolk spell, you're going to target a permanent on the board, and you can either tap or untap it. So what that means is, so say you have a Regery on the board, and let's say you have like a counter spell in hand. So let's say you have 4 mana, or let's say you have 3 mana, and you have a negate in hand. So you can cast a Lord of Atlantis, use this to target one of the islands you tap for Lord of Atlantis, and then untap it. So now you have your negate up. Or you can use it to summon our creature. If you don't have Island Walk yet, you can use it to tap down opposing opponent's creatures so that they can't block. In addition, you can use it to tap down opposing lands, so they either have to cast a spell now, or they'll float the mana and then the mana will empty in the end step, or end of the step you're in when you move to the next step. And yeah, so it's a pretty good utility card. Definitely gets there. The 3 is awkward, but you know, you run it anyway. It's definitely a worth card in this deck, and one of the best as a Lord. Now moving on here, we have a 4 Curse Catcher. This card is dynamite right now. So Curse Catcher is basically Merfolk's Judge's Familiar. Or I guess Judge's Familiar is Ravnica's Curse Catcher. So it's a 1/1 for 1, and then when your opponent casts or you may sacrifice it. It's not one they cast, but you're gonna do it when they cast. You may sacrifice it to counter target sorcery or instant spell unless its controller pays 1. So it's Judge's Familiar, literally just can't fly, but has type Merfolk, so it's better like that. It's really relevant right now because your opponents are playing a lot of cards like Thoughtseize, which is how like Judge's Familiar was really prevalent in the Ravnica Theros block for standard. You also have decks like Living End, where you can sack it to counter the Living End if they're tapped out. You can use it to counter basically every card right now. Like you play against like a fairies matchup, which I played in my final match I played, and semifinals I lost. You can use it to counter their blossoms. It's got just a lot of utility, and it's a 1-drop. So the 1-drop being like the best thing, because you are the aggro deck. You know, you're a little bit of a combo deck, but you're the combo aggro deck. And so because of the 1-drop, it is really, really sweet, just like that. Next, we got more 2-drops here. We got a Silverback Adept. This is one of the other engine cards of the deck. So notably, it's the only one of the 2-drops that doesn't cost double blue. All the Merfolk 2-drops cost double blue, except for this one. But it's not a Lord, so, you know, not double blue, but a great effect otherwise. So it's a 2-drop card. Now, it's only 2-drop if you can reveal another Merfolk from your hand. So you cast this card, you either reveal Curse Catcher or any other Merfolk. If you don't, you're going to pay 3 more. I actually had the hard cast this today for 5. It did not feel good, but I had to do it, and it was the right play. And then when it ATBs, you get to draw a card. So it's a 2-1 that once you get a Lord in the play, because if you don't get a Lord in the play, you're probably losing anyway. It's almost always going to be a 3-2 that replaces itself. So it's really good like that. You do have to reveal the card. It's not that big of a deal, though. You reveal a Lord, your opponent's going to always assume you have a Lord. So not that big of a deal. Moving up in the world, we have a 4-drop now. And speaking of Theros block, Master of Waves. So Devotion card for MTG Devotion. So Master Waves is a 4-drop when it enters as a 2-1. It has protection from red, which is super relevant right now. With like Grixis Living End, or not Living End. Grixis Death Shadow being like the primary form of Grixis, so a lot of red removal. They would try to be using this, like aside from Fatal Push, like Terminates and Bolts can't really hit. So it's protection from that. Against all the control decks, are Jeskai, so their removal on board besides board wipes, their Supreme Verdict is usually red removal. So again, you got that, like they got Path. So it has really, really relevant protection from red. In addition, when ETBs, you get to make a 1/0 elemental for every blue devotion you have. So every blue mana symbol on a permanent you control. And then the elementals get +1/+1. So not Merfolk, so they don't get from that Lord, but they do get +1/+1 from these Master Waves. And if the Master Wave leaves, you don't have another Master Waves on the board or some kind of pump spell, they will die because they'll go from being 2/1s to 1/0s. So a super great card at that. A card that does get cut in some matchups though, because of it being a 4-drop and you're looking to play smaller dudes and get counter spells in, but still an amazing card otherwise. Now for the last Merfolk we actually have in the deck, it's a Harbinger of the Tides. This is a great card from Origins. So it's a 2/2 for 2. When it ETBs, you may bounce a creature to its hand, a creature your opponent controls to its hand that is tapped, which is pretty good for tempo plays, especially because you can get off cards like Vial. But it also has additional mana cost of being able to play 2 colorless, in addition to the 2 blue, to give it flash. And this is how you really get them. So they attack with like the Death Shadow, they attack with the Tarmogoyf, and you get to flash this in, you get to bounce it. So it's pretty good like that. And the last creature we have here actually isn't a Merfolk. It's 2-copy of Phantasmal image. So originally I was playing the 4 Harbinger of the Tides, and that was pretty good. But as we're moving into a more creature-dense format, and notably I recognize that the scale kind of swings both ways, where it's either it's no creatures and it's a combo deck like Living End or a control deck, or it's the creature like Grixis, not Grixis deck, but a Death Shadow deck, where this gets a little worse. So you either get to basically make it so you have an extra copy of all of your lords in the deck, or you get to make it into like a Tarmogoyf or a Death Shadow. You get to make it into a lot of really relevant things. Now it does think it doesn't have Merfolk initially, so you won't get triggers off, say, like your Reed for casting it. But it's really, really versatile. I think that's what I like about it the most. The fact that I can like bring it in, like, so I had a time today where off Vial, I brought this in against Vial, and I had an ETB as a copy of Snapcaster Mage, my opponent's Snapcaster Mage, and then I targeted my counterspell in the yard and got to cast my counterspell. So it's things like that that make it really, really good and relevant. You get that copy like Tatsiger and a Gumag Angler, and it gets really good. And again, if you're not copying your opponent's stuff, which you're actually not going to do most of the time, you're just going to copy it into like a Lord, and that's where you get value there. All right. So let's get through the rest of these cards. Then before we go sideboard, we're going to discuss a little bit about what we're looking at with Modern and why I feel like there's a lot of really good picks here. Especially because I've been talking about Death Shadow a lot already, and that's one of the reasons. So, for non-creature cards, we have 4 copies of Aether Vial. Literally one of the best cards in the deck, if not the best card in the deck. Play it for 1. Every turn gets a counter. Tap it. Put a card with CMC or creature with CMC equal to the number of counters into play. Especially good against any decks with counter spells. because, you know, doesn't cast it, so really good like that. Speaking of which, talk a lot about Island Walk. If your opponent isn't running islands or is going to board out their islands, you got Spreading Seas, 2 mana, enchant land. It basically attacks their mana, which is really nice. Especially since we're really definitely in a 3-color format right now. It's really nice to be able to try to like remove their mana and really like make them work into playing correct mana or good mana. It like punishes really greedy keep hands where they're like just on their mana. So it rewrites the whole card, so it turns into an island, so you get Island Walk. You draw a card for it entering the battlefield also. But it's important that it rewrites the card, so if you get a Mutavault, it's no longer a man, it can no longer become a man land. You get a man land, like a regular man land, like a dual man land, it can no longer become a man land. It is just an island. Against like Affinity, you can hit their Darksteel Citadel, and it's no longer an artifact. It's really good like that. And then for the last 5 cards, when it comes to not lands, which are definitely up to my choice, which are 3 Spell Pierce and 2 Vapor Snags. So, the Spell Pierce is hedging my bet against a lot of the, again, there's a lot of decks that are like either going both ways. They're either like going super creature heavy or they're going not super creature heavy. So, with the Vapor Snags, it's against Death Shadow and the creature decks, which also, in my opinion, Death Shadow being the best matchup for this deck actually right now. Which is really good because Death Shadow is like arguably probably the best deck, if not one of the best decks. And it's not even just because it's power level, because people are ready for it definitely, but just the consistency that it puts out those threats and protects it and clears the board. So this really helps against that. Resetting a Tarmogoyf, resetting a Death Shadow, resetting a Scavenge Ooze, and your opponent loses 1 life, so it's pretty handy in that way. And Spell Pierce, being a counter spell, so you can like hit their like, you can hit their Liliana in the matchup for Death Shadow. You can hit some of the removal spells, but notably you get to hit things like Living End. You get to hit board wipes like Sweltering Suns or Anger of the Gods. You get to hit just a lot of cards that you can't interact with in a creature deck. Whether it's combo deck, you get to like Skate Shift, but normally they're going to cast Skate Shift with enough mana to you know, counter this. But like, you get to hit other cards in that deck. It's just very versatile. The fact that it's 1 mana, especially because most of the deck is 2 drops. So on turn 3, when you're playing like a Lord of Atlantis and you have 1 mana up, like they're not going to initially like instinctively believe like, oh, he has a mana up, I'm playing around Spell Pierce, I'm playing around Vapor Snag, I'm playing around a 1 mana card. Like, no, they're gonna be like, oh, well, the Merfolk deck is all 2 drops, so he has a mana up because he doesn't have another Vial to play, and doesn't have a Curse Catcher to play. And so they're not gonna be intuitively thinking about these cards, and that's where you really get them. So more on the sideboard, there's just a few things I want to discuss, but we also have lands here, so real quick. Cavern of Souls, good card. You can't play too many of them. I might up with 2. You can't play too many because you have a lot of cards that aren't Merfolk that you need blue for. 3 Wonderwine Hubs. I'll go into a little bit of this later. 4 Mutavaults, and the rest are just islands. Good old foil floor islands. Mutavault being really good, obviously, because it's also Merfolk type. So, yeah. So actually, going to this Wandering Hub, which is what I really want to talk about today, is whether or not the deck should be bridging into more white. So originally, when I was drawing up this deck a few weeks ago, this is the first time I've ever actually played a Modern event. I played some on Untapped with people trying to playtest them for events, but I never actually played a Modern event, and I'm like, alright, what am I going to play? A few weeks ago I decided, like 3 weeks, I'm like, okay, I'll play Merfolk. I'm going to build Merfolk. I like the consistency, I like things it does. I think it has a really good Death Shadow matchup, because Death Shadow basically starts at 12 life. Like, they essentially start at 12 life. So, like, 2-3 good hits with your Merfolk deck is going to get them, is going to get in there. Especially when they're pivoting to the Grixis version, where they intuitively have islands, and the Island Walk is just going to turn on. And with that being, like, arguably the best deck, it really, really helps out. Like, Coco Company is, like, one of the other best decks right now. You have the Spell Pierces in the main for that, and you have a lot of options. But the real discussion right now is where you should be moving white. So, originally I was going to be playing 4 hubs, because I was actually, like, weeks ago being like, I think I'm going to board Stony Silence. And because, like, I really thought there'd be, like, some good affinity. And then I decided, like, there's other ways to handle that. And then I was like, oh, well, do I want to board in Rest in Peace? Yeah, that's pretty good, too. And that was a last minute thought about boarding in Rest in Peace. But I was like, well, if I'm going to board in Rest in Peace, I want more, like, you know, blue-white types. I want more, like, Hollow Fountains. I want Flooded Strands in the deck. And it was a very last minute. It was, like, 2 hours for the event. And I was like, I don't have time to run these numbers. So I'm going to go with the numbers I have ran and just stick with this and not do that. So I played like cards like Relic Pretendas instead. But the real discussion here is whether or not adding the white is actually a lot better. Because you get to play cards like Rest in Peace. You get to play cards like Sturdy Silence just very inherently. You just take out some of the basic islands for Hollow Fountains, for Flooded Strands. It thus reduces your land count for drawing lands. And it's something that needs to be taken into consideration, I feel like. Because I think white cards have some of the best sideboard in the current meta. And I think by really delving into this, when you already have a card like Hub that's like super free to just get off of, I think it's a really good consideration, especially because it's a very heavy rest in peace format also. So I think it's something that a lot of players should be looking towards if they're looking at building a Merfolk deck. The reason I still play the 3 though is because like I didn't play any white cards, but just by having this, like the cards I'm revealing, I'm gonna cast. It's like, oh, I'm gonna play this, reveal Lord of Atlantis, Castle of Atlantis, reveal this, I play this, reveal Curse Catcher, cast Curse Catcher. And so like the reveal doesn't really matter. Again, like same with the Adept. But when I do play this, my opponent does have to spend the rest of the match being like, oh, is he mainboarding Path to Exile? Oh, is he sideboarding Recipe? So they have to assume those cards are in play for the rest of that match, which is super relevant. And so again, like you get a lot of counter spells we're gonna see with the sideboard. Then we'll go to like the rest of the modern metagame and why I think like outside versus Death Shadow and stuff like that, you have a lot of other plays here. So we got 3 Relic of Progenitus, Living End, the Graveyard decks, all of them. Just get them out of here. Get them out of here. So these next 6 weren't relevant. So they're 3 Ceramos Rejection and 3 Hercules Recall. So I went a little heavy on this because at just regular, we have like 40-person modern FNMs alone at the store. We had like 42 the other night, and there's a good chunk of Tron players and of there's at least 3 like guys who are all in on Ensnaring Bridge deck. And so with also the idea of Affinity showing up to the event today, I was thinking to myself that, all right, well, hard counterspell against Tron, especially because they're pivoting to Eldrazi Tron. Reset Affinity when they go for game. And then because there's always 3 Ensnaring Bridge players, I figure at least one's gonna show up, and I can board these in against that. I can board these to reset the Ensnaring Bridge. I can counter the Ensnaring Bridge. And so I really went for these. Unfortunately, I didn't play any Tron players. I didn't play any Affinity players. I didn't play. There were 2 Tron players. I didn't play either of them, which is really surprising. There was 1 Affinity player, some casual player who borrowed a deck off another player, and he didn't do well. He seemed like he was well positioned too in the matchups I saw. So I feel bad that he didn't know the deck as well as he did, or could have. And I didn't play any Ensnaring Bridge. Only one of the 3 guys showed up, and no one from out of town showed up with it. So yeah, but I still hold fast, so they're pretty good choices to have. Maybe, again, if you're going to the white, you get the Stony Silence, maybe that's a bit better. 2 Dispels, Control X, there's always like 2 Just Got players around my locals. And then obviously there's one guy who always travels out and he has control. And then there was like 2 other Just Got control players that showed up. So this is really good. You also get to, in the Fairies matchup, I got to bring it in other just like matchups. Like I think I would have brought this in against some Grixis matchups. It really depends on the build. I think Grixis Death Shadow would have brought it in. I don't think I would have brought it in against the Jund Death Shadow. But it's definitely like super clean counter spell in a lot of cases. And again, going back to that 1 mana CMC for the turn 3s, which are very, very pivotal. Now the real counter spell of the deck, 3 Unified Will, just literally straight counter spell in this deck. There are very few times you're not going to be able to just straight counter spell with this, and those times you're not straight counter spelling, like you just don't have a board, so like you're just losing anyway, or you shouldn't have brought it in because like you're losing the creature match, which means like you're not playing a control deck and you really don't need these. The last card's a Vendilion Click. I was really playing 2 clicks, and I ended up cutting for like I was between like the 3rd Rejection and the 2nd Dispel. Dispel was pretty hard on with, but it was more about the 3rd Rejection or not. I ended up wanting to do this over the Click, because Click comes in for the same matchup anyway. So I ended up just doing 1. The one worked well. Maybe wish I had 2, just because when I did, every time I saw it in a matchup I boarded it in, it was just super good, super clean, and super relevant. So again, I think what this deck really has is that it has a really good aggro tempo play here, and it has access to really good counter spells. Obviously, you're not playing stuff like Cryptic Command, but you're playing like really clean counter spells like Unified Will, like Dispel. You get to play Ceramos Rejection against Tron, which is like one of the best decks, and like you get to play against like Eldrazi. And again, if we're going for white, you have access to more cards. Like you can tear out these relics for Rest in Peace. You get Stony Silence instead of playing if you don't want to play Hercules Recall. And I think there's a lot to be said about just the speed in which it comes out, especially in Modern, a format where people are playing with like 5 of their life total almost every game. The fact that this deck is consistently going to go for the throat with 12 damage is going to be like unanswered unless your opponent just like board wipes you because you play into it, or you just have to you have to play into it, or like is a creature matchup where they're like pretty equal and you can't get an island on their board. It just does a lot of things, and even then, like even in those backup plays, you have like Rejury to do that. You have Vial that is like doubling your creature count by once you play it like turn, like wait 2 turns and then get out to 2. it's just crazy, and I think this is a really underrated deck right now that people should be looking at. And I would really recommend you guys go to like Untap, go to Cockatrice, go to MTGO, and you really just fool around with it a bit, because I think there's a lot of like undiscovered potential here. Like cards like Unify Will are absolutely insane. There's just straight 2-mana counterspell. It's Stubborn Denial for the deck. Like the best part about Eldrazi is you get to play Stubborn Denial, and like this is basically 2-mana Stubborn Denial, except for better. Because it just hits everything. It's just counter a target spell. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really sweet. I hope you guys also think it's sweet, and I really want to know what you guys are thinking about this deck. Of course, a little spice at the end here. You have to have your elemental tokens for your Master of Waves. We got them here in our shining Magic card Gyarados and this full art Gyarados. Gotta have them spicy elemental, boys. Just gotta. Alrighty, guys. Well, that's the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself and learned a little bit about Merfolk, and maybe you want to pick it up, or maybe you got some ideas for how to reinvent it, or maybe you just tell me how bad I am at playing Modern. Just leave all that in the comment section down below. Also, if you like the content, subscribe, because we are a new channel. We do need those tasty subs. As always, guys, remember to go out there and just play some Magic. We're just here to have some good spell slinging times with some of our favorite cards. So get out there, find your favorite cards, play some Magic, and we'll see you guys later.